It's not a mystery to me. The same thing that happened to my daughter is what happened to Whitney. There's only one person that was around both occasions.
You won't say his name. Nick Gordon is who you're referring to.
I won't say.
Whitney Houston and Bobby Brown's daughter, Bobbi Kristina Brown, has been gone for years. But the questions surrounding her death, they still don't add up. And if you ask her father, Bobby Brown, he'll tell you the same thing. Something just wasn't right. Like many others, he's pointed fingers at Bobbi Kristina's ex, Nick Gordon, suggesting he wasn't just involved in her tragic end, but maybe even Whitney's. But hold on, because the whispers don't stop there.
The world to know that Bobbi Kristina did not die from the bathtub incident. That's not what killed Bobbi Kristina.
What killed Bobbi Kristina?
Bobbi Kristina was starved.
You approach that?
He knows what happened. I don't know what happened that night. But he knows.
Walk through that door and you see her much like you saw Whitney.
It was literally, it was a nightmare.
Word on the street is that Bobbi Kristina knew something about her mother's death. And get this, some even believe that the eerie similarities between their passing weren't just coincidence, but part of a bigger, chilling plan. Oh, and let's not forget, Bobbi Kristina was reportedly around for some of Whitney's most heated clashes, including the ones involving powerful figures like Clive Davis. Coincidence? Or was she caught up in something far more sinister? And then, there's the Grammy connection. So what exactly did Bobbi Kristina know? Could what she uncovered about her mother's death have put her in danger too? Now, just to paint the full picture, Bobbi Kristina grew up in the spotlight, always by her mother's side.
And it's Grammy time. And her and Clive had a fight 2 days before. And from what I was told, Bobbi Kristina was present for some of that fight. And then the next thing you know,
she was just a baby when she appeared on camera with Whitney, sitting beside her in an interview with Barbara Walters at only 8 months old. By the time she was 1, she was already on stage at the 1994 American Music Awards, celebrating her mother's success. But when Whitney passed away, Bobbi Kristina was absolutely devastated. And what happened next? Well, let's just say the tragedy didn't stop there. Bobbi Kristina was completely shattered after losing her mother. The grief was unbearable, so much so that she ended up hospitalized after suffering a severe breakdown when Whitney's body was discovered in that Beverly Hills hotel room. But despite her heartbreak, she pulled herself together, putting on a brave face for the funeral and memorial services that followed. Whitney's death threw Bobbi Kristina even further into the spotlight. Her family tried to shield her, but the cameras kept rolling. She stepped into Hollywood, joining a Tyler Perry series, only to leave shortly after. She made public appearances, including a heartfelt interview with Oprah and a tribute at the Billboard Music Awards. It seemed like she was trying to find her own path, but fate had other plans. On January 31st, 2015, tragedy struck again. Bobbi Kristina was found unresponsive in the bathtub of her Georgia home, the very same way her mother was discovered. The eerie similarity sent shockwaves through the world. She never regained consciousness and, after months in hospice care, passed away on July 26, 2015. The Fulton County Medical Examiner ruled her death as a combination of drowning and intoxication. The toxicology report? It was chilling. Alcohol, morphine, sedatives, anti-anxiety medications, and even a Coca-Cola-related substance were found in her system. But here's where things get murky. The authorities couldn't say for sure whether it was an accident or something far more sinister. The underlying cause of death is the condition which starts the downhill course of events leading to death, the medical examiner stated. In Bobbi Kristina's case, that condition was immersion associated with drug intoxication. The pneumonia and encephalopathy that followed? They were just the final devastating steps in a tragedy that had already been set in motion. But was it really just an unfortunate accident? Or was there something much darker lurking beneath the surface? Bobbi Kristina's death was way too similar to her mother's to ignore. Whitney Houston died on February 11, 2012, at just 48 years old. She was found unresponsive, submerged in a bathtub at the Beverly Hilton Hotel. And just like Bobbi Kristina, reports ruled it an accidental drowning. But here's where things start to get real suspicious. Toxicology results showed Whitney had traces of a Coca-Cola-related substance, Xanax, and other substances in her system. But the official story? They claimed she might have had a heart attack, possibly triggered by hardened arteries, that made her lose consciousness and drown. Except, there's one major problem with that. The coroner didn't find any solid evidence of a heart attack. No cardiac event. Nothing.
Person to see her alive, he let the dealer in, but she was sober, right? But he let the dealer in that gave her the shot. Leola has said, Leola Brown, Bobby Brown's sister, has said on several occasions that she was beat. They saw her body. She didn't just die in a tub, like she was beat up.
In reality, the only heart-related issue Whitney had was mild heart disease, something common among smokers. So if there was no heart attack, then why was that story even pushed out? Sounds like a cover-up to me. And let's talk about those Coca-Cola levels. The coroner made it very clear. Whitney had some, but not enough to kill her. So what really happened? Because here's the part that has always raised eyebrows. How did she end up submerged in scalding hot water, so hot it burned her skin, without getting herself out? And it gets even darker. After Whitney's death, another shocking detail came to light. There wasn't enough water in her lungs to prove she drowned. That's right. If she had passed out in the tub and slipped under, there should have been more water in her lungs. But there wasn't. Which raises the real question. Did Whitney actually pass out? Or did someone put her in that tub? You know whose names always seem to come up when people talk about Whitney Houston's questionable death? Two people. Nick Gordon and Ray J.
Ray J coming out of the hotel, hiding his head, being pushed into the car. Why? I looked and I said, why is he hiding? Why is he hiding his face? He's always trying to show his face when he's around Whitney. Why now? Why are you trying to hide now, Ray J? And I put it all together. When I first heard she passed away, I said, my God, somebody gave her a bad bag. Yes, I promise you, that was the first thing that came out of my mouth. And then I saw Ray J. And it all added.
Now, Ray J was the last person publicly linked to Whitney. But let's be real. They were never steady, and neither of them ever confirmed they were a couple. But here's where it gets messy. Ray J insisted he wasn't at the party the night Whitney died. Yet multiple sources have said otherwise. One particularly suspicious account? Someone at the party claimed Brandy was looking for her brother, Ray J. Now, why would she be asking around for him if he wasn't even there? Doesn't add up. And it gets even shadier. Witnesses say that later that night, Raffles Van Exel and Ray J were rushing out the back with Brandy Burnside. But here's the thing. Raffles never liked Ray J. So why was he helping him slip away unnoticed? What were they running from? And if you really want to raise some eyebrows, let's talk about Leola Brown, Bobby Brown's sister. Right after Whitney's death, Leola dropped a bombshell. She accused Ray J of being the one who helped Whitney get access to whatever substances she was using. And even worse, she suggested he may have given her a bad batch that night. It all started making sense. And just when you think it couldn't get any more suspicious, remember that moment when Whitney crashed an E! News interview with Brandy, Monica, and Clive Davis? Before she left, she slipped Brandy a note. To this day, Brandy has never revealed what was written on it. What did Whitney need to tell Brandy so urgently? What was so secret that Brandy has kept it locked away for all these years? Brandy has been real tight-lipped about that note Whitney Houston handed her on live TV. In an E! interview, when asked about it, she simply said, "I'm gonna just not say what it was and keep it to myself for my own personal reasons."
Grammy time. And her and Clive had a fight 2 days before. And from what I was told, Bobbi Kristina was present for some of that fight. And then the next thing you know,
But let's be real. Why would Whitney, drenched yet fully clothed, interrupt a recorded interview just to pass Brandy a note, kiss her, and then walk away? People believe it wasn't just a random moment. It was intentional. Almost like Whitney wanted the cameras rolling, just in case something happened to her. And if you watch closely, you'll notice something strange. After slipping the note to Brandy, Whitney quickly shifted her focus to Monica and Clive Davis, almost as if she was buying time for Brandy to read it. Now, here's where things get even crazier. If you listen carefully to that clip, Whitney can be heard saying, "I nearly drowned today." Let that sink in. Was she already in danger before that night even unfolded? And Brandy? People have pointed out that she loves talking about positive things. But when it comes to the dark stuff, silence. And that silence spoke volumes when Whitney handed her that note. The look on her face? It said everything. But let's talk about Bobbi Kristina. Rumors have been swirling for years that she found out what really happened to her mother. And not just that. Some even claim she had receipts. Jaguar Wright, who has never been afraid to spill industry secrets, once revealed that Bobbi Kristina was right there during some of Whitney's biggest fights before she died. And here's where things take a wild turn. There are theories that Clive Davis himself may have been involved in Whitney's death. So, if Bobbi Kristina was present during those heated arguments, you best believe she heard things she was never supposed to hear. And that could have made her a target. And Whitney just happened to die at Clive Davis's party? Come on now, that doesn't make any sense. And just like Whitney's passing, the circumstances surrounding Bobbi Kristina's death have never added up either, especially when it comes to her toxic relationship with Nick Gordon. Here's where things get real suspicious. Bobbi Kristina was planning to leave. She was supposed to take a trip to LA to celebrate her father Bobby Brown's birthday with family. And not just that. She was making a permanent move to be closer to him. She was excited to start fresh, focus on her career, and continue her mother's legacy. But guess who didn't want that to happen? Nick Gordon. Because he knew that once Bobbi Kristina got out of his grip, it was game over for him. And here's the chilling part. She was supposed to meet up with a friend the very same day she was found in that bathtub. She was planning to tell them the truth. Nick wasn't the man she thought he was, but she never got the chance. According to those close to her, the day she was going to break the news to Nick, something went terribly wrong. She was upset, she was under the influence, and when Nick came home after being out, they argued. That argument allegedly turned violent. Nick attacked her, then left her alone in that room. And that's why she had brutal injuries, allegedly. And let's not forget, after Bobbi Kristina was moved to hospice care, her court-appointed conservator went after Nick legally, filing a complaint to seek justice on her behalf. The accusations? Causing substantial bodily harm and stealing money, all while pretending to be her husband. So the question remains, was Bobbi Kristina trying to escape? And did Nick Gordon make sure she never did? And just when you think the story couldn't get any darker, there's even more that doesn't add up about Bobbi Kristina's final days. For starters, Nick Gordon's behavior after her hospitalization was beyond suspicious. Instead of showing the kind of grief you'd expect from a so-called husband, he was out partying, spending money, and acting like nothing had happened. He even avoided visiting her in the hospital at times, which made people wonder, was he hiding something? Then there were the mysterious injuries on Bobbi Kristina's body. Reports revealed that when she was found, she had bruises, missing teeth, and unexplained marks. Injuries that didn't exactly scream accidental drowning. But despite the glaring evidence, no criminal charges were filed at the time. And let's not forget, Nick Gordon was already deeply controlling before her death, Friends say he cut her off from family, controlled her money, and manipulated her into believing that he was the only person she could trust. Some even claim he used intimidation to keep her from leaving. So, when Bobbi Kristina finally decided to break free, that might have been the moment everything changed. And here's the most chilling part. The parallels to Whitney's death weren't just eerie. They felt deliberate. The same bathtub, the same mysterious substances, the same unanswered questions. Was this truly just another tragic accident? Or was someone making sure that Bobbi Kristina would never be able to tell the truth? And here's where things take an even darker turn, because Nick Gordon wasn't the only one acting suspiciously. In the days leading up to Bobbi Kristina's accident, several people in her circle noticed a change. She was talking about moving away, reconnecting with family, and even pursuing legal action against people she believed had wronged her. It was as if she had finally woken up to the reality of her situation. And then, she was gone. But let's talk about Max Lomas, the friend who was actually there when Bobbi Kristina was found. He was the one who discovered her unconscious in the tub, but what's strange is how long it took before anyone called 911. Max himself later admitted that Nick Gordon was acting erratic and refused to let people help her right away. Then, mysteriously, Max Lomas also died under suspicious circumstances just a few years later. And get this, Nick Gordon, also dead, found unresponsive from an overdose in 2020. That's two key people who could have spilled secrets, now gone forever. Too many strange coincidences, too many unanswered questions. And one thing that keeps coming up was Bobbi Kristina silenced before she could expose the truth about what really happened to Whitney. And here's where it all comes full circle, because the conservator wasn't done fighting for justice. Later on, they filed an amended complaint accusing Nick Gordon of causing Bobbi Kristina's wrongful death. The claim? That the two had a heated argument, which ended with Nick giving Bobbi Kristina a toxic cocktail, leaving her unconscious before he allegedly placed her face down in the bathtub. And get this! According to Bobby Brown himself, Nick Gordon was present at the time of both deaths, Whitney's and Bobbi Kristina's. He firmly believes Nick played a role in both tragedies. But Nick denied everything and even went as far as to blame Bobby Brown for Bobbi Kristina's death. But we'll never get his side of the story, because Nick Gordon also died mysteriously just a few years later. So at this point, there's no one left to definitively say what really happened to Whitney and Bobbi Kristina. Were their deaths connected? Were they planned? And if so, who was pulling the strings? One thing's for sure, these deaths never made sense. The eerie similarities, the unanswered questions, the people who knew too much suddenly turning up dead? It's disturbing, to say the least. So what do you think? Was Nick Gordon truly the mastermind behind both tragedies, or was he just a pawn in something much bigger? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the stories they don't want you to know.